On this episode, Chris built a deck that can stand on its own four hooves.
We all know Gruul is cruel, but this commander's the gruelest of the Gruul.
My name's Taylor.
Hi, I'm Chris, and welcome to episode 15.
Oh, that's cool. We did like a secret handshake there that we don't even know.
No.
It's that secret.
Still figuring out which is which there. But this is Commander Role Reversal. We are a channel dedicated to building decks, swapping them, playing them, talking about them on the internet.
And that is you, the internet. So please remember to like, subscribe, and share with a friend, because if you don't, I will sell all my Magic cards.
Oh, that would be real bad. We wouldn't get to play anymore, except, well, we proxy all these decks.
Yeah, we might be able to fund a studio.
Oh, good.
Big brain plays. That one's for you, NPG Finance.
We'll be sure to include the deck lists on Moxfield in the description below. And today we're talking about commanders that win some games. And I think, Taylor, you won some games.
I did win some games, and these are specifically commanders from Double Masters that were spoiled, so get excited for that, even if your wallet is not. But I think I did end up winning with a deck that you built, Chris, which was Karador?
Karador, Ghost Chieftain. 5, a white, black, and a green for a legendary creature, Centaur Spirit. This spell costs 1 generic mana less to cast for each creature card in your graveyard. And during each of your turns, you may cast a creature spell from your graveyard. It's a 3/4. So Karador cares about getting things into the graveyard, creatures specifically. It's a heavy creature deck in Abzan, which is awesome colors, the best color combination for that strategy. And I'm going to jump in with some stats here. So being a creature deck, we did include 42 creatures, including Karador, in the deck. I only noted 4 card advantage spells, but it's really hard to actually sort of define what a card advantage spell is in Karador, because our cards that mill a bunch of cards into your graveyard, is that card advantage?
I think it depends on your commander.
I think it does, for sure.
Yeah. Not for mine.
But we did want to get cards into the yard, so we had 23 spells that get cards into the yard. We had 23 spells that get cards out of the graveyard as well. We did have 8 dying payoffs. If creatures are going to be dying, we wanted to be able to pay those off. There were 8 ways to do that, and then we had 8 ways to ramp, and there were a total of, drum roll please, 18 removal spells. We went a little heavy on the removal. This was Abzan Control at its finest.
Who hurt you? And why did I not draw a single one of those?
There were definitely a few creature ways to do some removal.
That's fair.
But yeah, there was 3 board wipes in total. If does Elish Norn count as a board wipe?
It should.
It should, yeah. I think in a lot of cases it does. But I digress, Taylor. I was trying to build a creature graveyard deck, and how did it stack up for you?
Stack up. It wasn't stacks, so that was a nice change of pace, but it did stack up.
Nice.
No, I really appreciated that breakdown, and just jumping into the best cards from my play experience with it. Karn Silver Golem was a 5 generic legendary artifact creature golem. Whenever Karn Silver Golem blocks or becomes blocked, it gets -4/+4 until end of turn. Pay 1. Target non-creature artifact becomes an artifact creature with power and toughness, each equal to its mana value until end of turn. Karn is a 4/4. I was really impressed that you were able to find a way to make this work. It was a creature-heavy deck, so I wasn't really sure what your strat would be with that. So it was...
I don't think it's in the deck.
Yeah, no, it's not in the deck.
I'm gonna put it in one of these days, just for that effect.
No, it's not in there.
Well, we got Karn out of the way, so
we did. It's a Karn-free episode from this point on. Check the timestamp. No, this deck, obviously it scales depending on how stacked your graveyard is. So right off the bat, I wanted to highlight a few cards that helped put things into the graveyard. So Stitcher Supplier, which is a black for a creature zombie. When Stitcher Supplier enters the battlefield or dies, mill 3 cards. Stitcher Supplier is a 1/1. So this, along with other cards that you had, like Undead Butler, which is a newer one that was printed from one of the Return to Innistrad sets. Anything that gets you 3 cards into your yard for just 1 mana
Yeah.
is a win. And what I really like about this synergy and how it synergizes with your commander is that it enters the battlefield and dies.
Yes.
So
Yeah, and technically if it dies, it's also in the graveyard. So
It
it's
is.
kind of like 7 cards in the graveyard. In that
okay,
case.
well that's some big brain math right there.
1 mana, and I don't know, you figure out how to get it dead.
Pretty easily. I'm just gonna swing at the other player.
Yeah.
Almost spoiled it. So yeah, no, I really enjoyed that. You had another card that was really excellent at getting creature cards specifically into the graveyard while also getting more creature cards into your hand, which I really enjoyed. Of course, we're talking about Fauna Shaman. 1 and a green for a creature elf shaman with an activated ability of pay green and tap. Discard a creature card, search your library for a creature card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, and then shuffle. Fauna Shaman is a 2/2. We've had the conversation before on multiple episodes. You know, tutors, as divisive as they are, I will always be a fan of them when they play into the strategy of the commander.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you get to tutor for whatever the best creature is in that moment, but you're also getting another creature card in the graveyard, which you can just probably cast that turn,
Yeah,
right?
and what are you going to do? Kill the creature?
Oh,
darn.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'll just recast Fauna Shaman from my graveyard. Rip.
Yeah, Fauna Shaman in this particular deck, I mean, it goes in a lot of the graveyard decks, right? But in this particular deck, it was really impressive to see you just go off with it. You must have activated it like 3 times. I don't want to get too deep into the gameplay aspect, but it was just like, wow, it's just putting the creatures into the graveyard for you to use. It's actual card advantage in this case.
Yeah, and part of my hesitation playing anything that causes you to discard cards, well, is 1, I'm usually not playing a Reanimator deck, and 2, that's just it. If you're not playing a Reanimator deck, you have to make the painful, difficult choice to get rid of that really powerful creature.
Yeah.
JK!
Yeah, sometimes it makes sense. Like later in the game, if you draw a mana dork, you can easily pitch that mana dork and grab, whatever creature you want with Fauna Shaman. But in this case, you can do it, however you want. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool. I was glad to see that it did last at least 3 turn cycles. Value!
Sweet.
Similar theme, but non-creature, because you did actually have some of those cards in there that were also not lands.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to let you off that easy.
Okay.
Unmarked Grave, which is 1 and a black for a sorcery. Search your library for a non-legendary card, put that card into your graveyard, and then shuffle. This came in clutch. I was able to get a creature that would potentially have won me the game, I think.
For sure.
With this card. I don't know if it's a reprint. I do know it was most recently printed in Modern Horizons 2.
Yeah, and I think that was the original printing. I think Unmarked Grave was a new card. Non-legendary seems like a downside, but most of the creatures in your deck are non-legendary. Like, let's be real. Like, it seems limiting, but it's not.
And less of a downside when you're running 42 creatures.
Yeah.
So, at least one of those aren't going to be legendary.
Yeah.
So, I know it's the debate as old as time. Like, are you running non-creature spells in your creature deck? I think this is a slot that justifies it. Even though it's sorcery speed, it is low enough mana value to, be useful, I think.
Yeah. 1 or 2 mana for an effect like that's a really, really powerful effect.
Yeah.
And it either puts a creature card in your graveyard to help you ramp out Karador. Mm-hmm. So is it a ramp spell?
Mm-hmm. I think in this case, at least one of the times that I resolved it, it was to bait you to remove that card from my graveyard, so I could actually recast something more, more appropriate for the situation. But mind
subversion.
games,
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
So really good include with that. But of course, what do we do once we have all the creatures in the yard? Yeah. We get them out of the yard.
Ooh,
yeah.
How do we do that?
With Eternal Witness, obviously, which is 1 and a green for a creature, human shaman. When Eternal Witness enters the battlefield, you may return target card from your graveyard to your hand. Eternal Witness is a 2/1. This is a green staple, a Reanimator staple. I'm not surprised that it's in here. I was surprised that I was able to cast the same Swords to Plowshares 5 times.
That game just keeps coming back. Why? How many copies of Swords to Plowshares are in that deck?
It's like after the 3rd time, I was like, they've got to know this is coming, right? Like, I'm not going to pick any other card other than the 1-drop exile target creature.
Seems good.
Yeah.
It's so good in this, right? Because you just get Eternal Witness into the graveyard, then you cast it with Karador, and then you get another card back with it when it comes into the battlefield. So good.
I was a fan.
Synergy.
I understand why it's like a $5 card. Yeah. I don't know if it's a $5 card.
I think it is now. I got a reprint recently.
Gotcha.
One of the precons, I think, had Eternal Witness, and that helped with the price. So, yeah.
Good.
Now's the time.
Wasn't even a reanimator deck. Just
It wasn't. It just
Yeah.
green good stuff.
So yeah, I really appreciated that. Not only did you have ways to get things into the yard, get them out of the yard. I think 23-23.
Yeah, it was. It turned out even. I was
perfectly balanced,
as all things should be.
Do we do the clip? Wrapping up this segment, a couple cards I wanted to highlight. The payoffs. Like, what are we reanimating?
Yeah.
Cathar Commando. This actually was highlighted last episode,
Yep.
but I'm going to highlight it again because
Right.
it's such a good common that was printed in Midnight Hunt.
Again. Yeah.
Yeah. So Cathar Commando, 1 and a white for a creature human soldier with flash. Not irrelevant. And then also pay 1, sacrifice Cathar Commando, destroy target artifact or enchantment.
Yeah.
I love this card, and I blew up like 17 things.
Oh my gosh, it kept coming back.
This commando went hard.
Yeah. Just keeps dying, keeps coming back. Is it better than Reclamation Sage?
It's the same mana sink. That's an interesting question because I was going to ask you if it's better than Caustic Caterpillar.
See? Yeah, it's right in that same
realm,
realm,
which is the 1 drop, but then you have to pay 2.
Doesn't have flash.
Doesn't have flash. I guess Cathar Commando requires fewer colored pips.
Yep.
If that makes a difference.
I think so.
Yeah.
And it has flash.
And it does have flash. Yeah.
I think that's
What
not
was I
irrelevant.
thinking?
Except in Karador, because Karador is only on your own turn that you can cast spells from the graveyard. So
Aw.
it is a little bit limiting, but
Literally unplayable. What I would think is also literally unplayable is a 8 mana value creature.
yeah.
So it's got to
Better
do something.
Yeah.
Turns out it does.
Oh.
Ashen Rider, which is 4 white, black for 8 mana. Creature Archon with flying. When Ashen Rider enters the battlefield or dies, exile target permanent. It's a 5/5. I'm realizing now as I'm reading this that it's permanent. So if you really want to get degenerate, you just start exiling lands.
Yeah.
Rude.
So rude. Yeah. And you can kind of just do this twice a turn, right? You cast it from your graveyard with Karador and then kill it with whatever. And then that's 2 activations every turn. So it really adds up in this deck.
It does. Yeah. I mean, you still need to keep the 8 mana open because you're not casting it for free. But
Yeah.
It did the thing. It really helps with those pesky indestructible things too.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a 5/5 flyer too, right? It flies. Yeah. So
it can block other really pesky big creatures.
Yep. Blocks or gets in for damage before you start making your opponent sad.
Yeah.
I mean, they were probably already sad because that's 5 damage. But.
Yeah, I think this is when I unmarked Graved at one point.
Oh, that's the one.
Yeah.
Not legendary.
Not legendary.
Powerful though.
But it did lead to a legendary game experience. Spoilers. Tune in later this episode. Okay. Last one, just gotta shout out the OG Deathrite Shaman for Golgari Hybrid, Creature Elf Shaman. It has tap, exile target land from a graveyard, add 1 mana of any color. You can pay black and tap, exile target instant or sorcery card from a graveyard. Each opponent loses 2 life. You can pay green and tap, exile target creature card from a graveyard. You gain 2 life. It's a 1/2. I heard the joke recently that this was the best Planeswalker ever printed, which I mean,
because it's modal.
Yeah, modal does like a lot of things like that, I guess. But
1 drop.
I thought it was funny. Definitely more useful than a lot of Planeswalkers that I've seen when it comes down. But I love this card. The utility, the modal aspect, like you said, is really powerful.
Really, really good. Yeah. Is it a ramp card? Is it a graveyard hate card? Or is it something else that we might talk about? We're really kind of foreshadowing.
We are, yeah. Or I can just say that you're narrating your existential crisis and how to tag this on Moxfield. What category does it go into?
Yeah, it's subjective, but...
Yeah. But... Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's subjective. Yeah, it depends on the deck, depends on the commander, depends on how you play it. Because, Taylor, you played that card not in a way that I would have expected you to play it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we're leaning into the foreshadowing again.
Going back to it. So stay tuned for that.
Stay tuned. But, Chris, that wraps up my highlighted cards, even though Karn wasn't in there. I'm still glad we got to shout him out.
Yep.
But
number 1 highlight, number 1. Honorable mention.
Nope. No mention.
Straight highlight.
What did you play?
Well, Taylor, could you tell me which commander I played in the breakdown? And
I guess I should explain the deck that I built for you.
Yeah. New format. Who dis?
The new format. Another phone bit? No. It's been overplayed. No. I had the distinct privilege and pleasure of building Ruric Thar the Unbowed, which is 4 red and a green for a legendary creature ogre warrior with vigilance and reach. Ruric Thar, the Unbowed, attacks each combat if able, and then whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, Ruric Thar deals 6 damage to that player. Ruric Thar is a 6/6.
That's a big old punch.
It is a big old punch. Just don't play non-creature spells. More importantly, don't build a deck that penalizes that when your friend is building another creature
deck. Yeah, that was not planned. That's so funny.
No, but it did work out. Just breaking down some of the important stats, I think it was a creature deck, as I alluded to, because I don't want to be punching myself in the face, more than I have to. Yeah. But 39 creatures, including the commander, and it. That breakdown includes 16 creatures that provided mana advantage. I'm not necessarily going to label that as ramp because I am including, cards that allowed you to play lands from your library or your graveyard or different zones, effects like that. Sure. There were 4 cards that protected the commander that were creatures, 7 pingers, so kind of extra damage or like a Warstorm Surge type effect on a creature body, 7 finishers, and then 1 major land destruction card.
Oh, God. Why would you do that?
Yeah, because I'm a bad person, Chris. And there was 1 card that stalls the game out for hours if your opponent copies it. But
wait, are you foreshadowing now?
I am foreshadowing.
Perfect.
Yeah,
okay.
We're just all about it. Those were the creature stats. Also had some stacks pieces built in there, 6 of them, 3 fling effects, 1 hipster card, as you referred to it. So really fun, interesting build. I was proud of myself in this one because I've historically had a really tough time building creature decks because I always want to go for the value, like enchantments, sorceries, instants, artifacts. I just love those card types.
Yeah.
But this deck kind of built itself, which I really enjoyed. So the idea was to take advantage of the fact that Ruric Thar is punching you in the face repeatedly if your opponents are playing non-creature spells. So I wanted to maximize the damage that was doing every time that ability procced. So I built a lot of kind of additional damage multipliers in Fiery Emancipation. You had your Torbran, who's doing an extra 2 damage for all of your red spells that are sources that are dealing damage.
Turns out Ruric Thar's red.
He is.
Yep.
Yeah. Hybrid or no, multicolored. Yeah. Which is really good.
Yeah.
And then if that wasn't doing it, also I kind of alluded to it, doing a critical mass of the Warstorm Surge, Impact Tremors, Terror of the Peak effects, taking advantage of the high density of creature cards, getting those onto the field, so and also dealing damage while playing them. So, and then the insurance policy, I would say, is I had some lifelink built in there to prevent me from dying, or you in this case, when you are playing those kind of enchantments that help you get to the win. Yeah. So I hope it delivered on that.
It definitely did. Yeah, it was the gruelest of gruel decks ever to gruel the earth. And it definitely did the thing I want to talk about. Yeah, it's interesting you highlighted some of the cards that I want to talk about. For example, how to stall a board game or board state, or how to not get punched in the face by Ruric Thar with Elder Scale Worm, 4 green for a creature worm with trample. When Elder Scale Worm enters the battlefield, if your life total is less than 7, your life total becomes 7. As long as you have 7 or more life, damage that would reduce your life total to less than 7 reduces it to 7 instead, and it's a 7/7. There are 7 instances of 7 on this card. Fun fact. Yep. Hey. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 7, 7, 6, 7. Yep. Count them out, folks. This card is awesome. A really, really interesting way to prevent yourself from getting nuked by your own Ruric Thar. If you cast any non-creature spells while Elder Scale Worm and Ruric Thar are on the battlefield, it just prevents you from going to less than 7 life. You can't lose. I guess you still can lose if your opponents cast like an Exsanguinate, for example, where you lose life instead of take damage.
I think
because damage that would reduce your life total less than 7 reduces it to 7. So there's still ways to get around the effect, but it was a really good insurance plan, and in fact, it's the reason why I lost one of the games.
You're welcome.
Interestingly. But you talked about lifelink too. That's another way to keep yourself going while Ruric Thar, and also a way to just gain life when your opponents are losing life.
Yes.
What a huge life swing. And it's a card that can go in any deck that wants a commander to have lifelink. It's Witch's Clinic. Yes. It's a land. Tap to add colorless, or pay 2 and tap. Target commander gains lifelink until end of turn. I guess you could give your opponents Commander lifelink too if you wanted to.
It's a political tool if you
could
need
be.
it to be.
Yeah.
Or it's just my favorite card in the deck.
Yeah, it worked really, really cool. So if you proc Ruric Thar's ability, you lose 6 life and then you gain 6 life, right? So you net zero life loss. But if your opponents are getting hit by Ruric Thar doing damage, it's doing damage, so it's life linking the life back to you. This was brilliant. I did not see this as any part of the strategy. I did not see that coming. It's cool. There's a couple of ways to do it, but
We subverted expectations.
Yeah. Witch's Clinic was the best one because it's just a land. It's one of your colorless lands in the deck.
Yeah, just kind of go for a flavor win too. Like if you met Ruric Thar in the field, you probably need to go to some kind of clinic.
He's gonna send you to the clinic. Yeah. Nice. Well, there was another Trixie card in here that I wanted to highlight, and that card is Guardian Augmenter for 2 and a green, a creature troll wizard with flash. Commander creatures you control get +2/+2, and commanders you control have hexproof. It's a 2/2. Is this card a combat trick? Is this card a protection spell? Is it an anthem for your commander? It's everything.
I can't really focus on that question, even though it was rhetorical, because I'm realizing that it wasn't accidental that troll was a part of the type.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah,
you gotta troll your opponent's flesh.
Definitely a troll. This one was out of Strixhaven too. It was, yeah, Strixhaven had some bangers. I mean,
It did. I'm not sure if it was in the set proper or in one of the commander decks.
I think it would have been because it refers specifically to commanders. So I think it was.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's definitely in the commander.
Absolutely. Yep. It was either in the Quandrix deck or the...
Maybe in the Dina deck.
Okay.
Yeah, the Life Steeper.
Oh, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Yep, that would make more sense. Well, either one of those. Yeah. One of the green decks.
Pick it up.
Yeah, because they were real fun. Strixhaven had some bangers, but Guardian Augmenter, I think that the hexproof can be relevant because your opponents do want to remove it, even though they have to pay 6 life a lot of times to do it, unless they're doing like a creature removal spell, like a Ravenous Chupacabra or something like that.
Who would do that?
Who would put that in a deck? Any black deck that cares about creatures, in my opinion. You had a couple of cool non-creature spells in here too. It was not all creatures. There were some non-creatures. One of those was Unnatural Growth. Unnatural Growth is 1 green for an enchantment. At the beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of each creature you control until end of turn.
Someone needed to stop Wizards of the Coast from printing that.
Yeah, this one is pushed.
I love it. I get so angry every time I see it in Arena. But, I love playing it. So I guess I'm part of the problem.
Yeah. It's really fun to play. I mean, it's each creature you control. And I mean, the casting cost is a little bit prohibitive, but in a green deck, I mean, it's like the best color for this type of cost, because you can just ramp into it, right? I mean, you're just going to get lands or you're going to get something that taps for green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you think any less of me if I said it was only in there because it made the Fling WinCon a little bit more viable?
Nice. Just wait for your combat step.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. I liked it also because you do have to attack with Ruric Thar every combat.
You do.
So doubling the toughness and the power, like...
That was intentional.
Yep. That was really... Yeah, it just keeps him alive, He's not going to get, like, triple blocked, or maybe he will, but he'll have twice as much power and toughness. So.
You're gonna need a lot of 1/1s to block that
guy. There was another one with a pretty steep casting cost, another enchantment, Fiery Emancipation. You mentioned it. It's an enchantment for 3 red, so 6 mana total. If a source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals triple that damage to that permanent or player instead. You know it, you love it. It makes Ruric Thar do 18 damage
every time someone casts something. Hope you have Witch's Clinic out, otherwise
nice.
Bad things are happening.
It's not just combat. It's not. It just cares about damage, right? So I mean, the fact that Ruric Thar reads deal 6 damage.
What really took me back for it in the brewing process was I was still gonna put it in, even thinking this. I thought it only cared about red sources of damage.
Oh, right.
But it's anything.
Yeah.
So that's just.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, it doesn't have to be Ruric Thar. It could be your Guardian Augmenter that's getting in there for now 6 damage.
It's low balls. Those are rookie numbers.
All right, yeah. Well, it's got flash, so it's got something going for it.
That's true. You would just need to flash it in at the beginning of combat. for it to... Oh, wait, no, Fire... We're talking about Fire
Emancipation.
We're still on...
Unnatural growth. They're both so good. Oh my gosh. If you want a couple of non-creatures in your Ruric Thar deck, these are a couple that I would highly recommend.
Cool.
I do have one more creature that I wanted to talk about. This one puts in work. Runic Armasaur. Runic Armasaur for 1 green, so 3 mana. A creature dinosaur. Whenever an opponent activates an ability of a creature or a land that isn't a mana ability, you may draw a card. It's a 2/5.
Yeah. I had a joke in the script originally that card drew you more cards than the Simic player at the table. But it wasn't a joke, so I just didn't say it.
Yeah. It was actual real life. Any, like, we have a lot of utility lands these days. We have man lands that are going, there are creatures that tap to draw cards. There are it's incredible to me, like, how relevant this is and how many cards you can actually draw off of this.
I've never seen it before.
Yeah.
I only found it because I was building this deck.
Building a Gruul creature deck, yeah.
M19, I think.
Yep.
It
was a core set.
Of course.
I think it's time to talk about questionable cards. So what questions stood out to you in this deck? Oh, perfect. All right, on to the next segment.
No, just a couple ones. And I try to stick with a theme on this one. Land matter questionable cards.
Oh, interesting.
I did see this one in here, and I didn't end up playing it, really. So I definitely probably wasn't using it to its full potential, because you don't put cards in decks if they don't have a reason to be in there. Life from Loam. 1 green, sorcery, return up to 3 target land cards from your graveyard to your hand. Dredge 3. If you would draw a card, you may mill 3 cards instead. If you do, return this card from your graveyard to your hand. Reading that reminder text out loud right now, I am realizing why I should have been playing that card.
Life from the Loam is a classic way to just, get cards into your graveyard, and some of those cards might be land cards. So it's also a way to get them back, and then when you cast it, it goes into your graveyard, which lets you dredge 3. So it's a little bit of a loop.
That's
so it's good that you brought it up, because I think it did get priced out a little bit, but it might have had a reprint recently. So
yeah, I'm not sure. When I was looking at the cards, as we were preparing for this episode, I saw it was like $15.
It's still
it's up there.
Yeah, it's
so that's why I was like, okay, I definitely got to ask you about it, because what am I not seeing here? Because I was thinking, like, okay, I wasn't really like putting land cards into the graveyard, so what am I doing? But it's the dredge. I didn't put 2 and 2 together during the game. That it fuels
itself, right? Yeah. And then, you do have like Stitcher Supplier and Undead Butler and like some other like self-milling effects. You've got Altar of Dementia in there as well. So there's a lot of ways to just get all your cards in the graveyard, right? So some of them might be lands. But it's really that dredge. I think you could probably do like a dredge sub-theme, because there are a number of dredge cards that are pretty good. There's like Stinkweed Imp is a classic one that is... you'll see the image up here, but it basically is like a really good blocker that kills anything it blocks, and then it also dredges, I think, probably 5 or so.
Oh, fun, because it's like probably like a 1/1 Death Toucher or something.
Yeah, it's like a tiny little flying creature, but it gets the dredge on. So
get your dredge on. You heard it here first, folks. Check out our merch. We don't have merch. Making good on my promise to ask you about Land Matters cards. Dryad Arbor, color indicator green, so it has a green color identity. It's a land creature forest dryad. It isn't a spell. It's affected by summoning sickness, and it has tap to add green. It's a 1/1. This is a cool card, and I'm pretty sure that I also included it in the deck list that I built for you, but I just put it in there because I wasn't going for a basic land, deck. I was going for like a bunch of, non-basics for the mana base, but what am I missing about this card? Why do you put it in there?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm glad that you brought up Dryad Arbor, because there's a couple of things that it does. First of all, it's a creature. Sure. It's a creature and a land, right? So it's a creature in a creature deck. We like that.
Yep.
But it also, and I'm realizing now that I think I actually forgot to include Green Sun Zenith. I put in Finale of Devastation, which I guess works. It's a little bit worse for this. But with Green Sun Zenith, you pay 1 green mana, X equals 0, and you get your Dryad Arbor, and then you shuffle Green Sun Zenith back into the library, and then you have your creature land on the battlefield that can tap for mana next turn. So it's a ramp spell in that case, too. So there's some fun things you can do with it, but mostly it was just like, it was mostly for that combo, and also just having a creature, that you could
play for free, because it doesn't have a mana value.
Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I really like it. Yeah. I didn't end up playing it, but it's good. Cool card.
Cool card, yeah.
But that wraps up my questionable cards, nice. Chris. What do you got for me?
Well, I got a couple. Mostly just here to call you out, per usual.
The combo player. We've come full 180.
You somehow managed to fit in quite a bit of stacks in a Gruul deck.
All right. Only 6.
How did you do it? Was one of them Root Maze?
No.
For green, for an enchantment. Artifacts and lands enter the battlefield tapped. Nice.
That's it. What if I told you that I'd been putting that in every single green deck list that I've built for you until you called me out for it?
Oh, perfect. Yeah, this was the episode.
Because I have.
Oh, good.
Nice. It's a 1-drop.
Yep.
It makes everybody angry.
Yep.
They have to use their removal on it because it slows the game down. Yeah. And also, I did put in synergies where you had, I think it was Amulet of Vigor.
I did see that. Yeah, that's cool.
Cool just trying to break parity. Anytime I do stacks, I am, making a calculated decision to include it, knowing that I will probably have ways to play it around it.
Right.
That my opponents don't.
Right, because it is important to know with Root Maze, artifacts and lands enter the battlefield tapped. That's all artifacts and lands. So with Amulet of Vigor, anything that comes in tapped comes in untapped, or you untap it when it comes in, right?
And I think that there were like 6 artifacts, so I'm not going to be too upset if, that's out and I don't have the Amulet of Vigor out yet, because it's not really going to bother me. And then as for lands, that, as I'm sure you noticed, there were plenty of ways to ramp out. So a tap land gonna slow me down?
Exactly. The fact that this is a green card, that you don't need as many artifacts and you have ways to ramp your lands. I mean, Root Maze is a cool. I'll use the word cool loosely here. Card to include in your green decks.
Well, I have a way for you to be higher on it. Just the next time someone brings a treasure deck to your table.
Oh, snap. They do enter the battlefield tapped. Yeah,
they do.
That's tough. Yep.
Yeah, see, we fixed treasure.
All right. Well, here's another brutal card. I think you might have mentioned it in the overview. It's brutal, dude. Keldon Firebombers is 3 a red and a red for a creature, human soldier. When Keldon Firebombers enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices all lands they control except for 3. It's a 3/3. Wow. That's on a 5-drop. Goodness. Wow.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Sometimes you want to win, and sometimes you want to win and make sure that no one plays with you.
Yeah. When your opponents can't win, that's winning.
Yeah. No, in all seriousness, I think it was just like another insurance plan. Like I do like to throw in at least one card that people like aren't expecting if they're trying to intuit the theme of a deck.
Sure.
So, and again, when I included it, I knew very well that I had many ways in the deck list to recur lands from the graveyard.
Yeah, and sometimes more than one at a time. Yeah. No, I noticed that. Okay. Yeah. It's definitely a solid strategy if you've got one of each of those cards. Sacrifice all of your lands. Well, first you tap them all. You flip the mana.
Then you sacrifice.
Then you sacrifice them.
So really what you're saying is you just wanted to run my good name through the dirt.
That's what I'm here for.
Cool. Dude.
That's what this whole segment is dedicated to for me.
Only how many episodes left of this? Help.
All right. Well, those are the questions. And I was wondering if you were able to find any cards that you might suggest in a Karador deck.
I can't say no because I already did that. Yeah. So I'll just jump straight into the suggestions.
Oh, yeah. You wrote an outline before the episode here, so we're able to do this.
Yeah. Honestly, dude, I can't believe that you didn't throw this in there. This probably was an intentional choice just because I know that this is another deck you have. But Marin of Clan Neltoth. I mean, 2 black-green legendary creature, human shaman. Whenever another creature you control dies, you get an experience counter. At the beginning of your end step, choose target creature card in your graveyard. If that card's mana value is less than or equal to the number of experience counters you have, return it to the battlefield. Otherwise, put it into your hand. Marin is a 3/4.
Ooh, Secret Commander.
I know the only reason you didn't put it in here was because of Unmarked Grave. You can't tutor it, so what's the point?
What's the point? You can't even get Marin, yeah.
But if you are running Fauna Shaman, like what an engine.
Snap.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
keep on looping.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah.
Among other things, like
Yeah.
any number of loops, or just Karador,
Sure.
makes this, I think, a slam dunk.
Yeah, absolutely. Because now you're getting 2 creatures out of the graveyard every turn, whether it's to your hand or to the battlefield. Yeah, yeah. Marin's definitely a solid include. That should probably go in a Karador deck. I think it's definitely got that synergy.
Was it an intentional choice not to include it? It's okay if it wasn't. But.
I think there were just like so many cards that I wanted to include, but Marin definitely should have went. It wasn't a conscious decision not to include Marin.
Gotcha.
But, I just didn't get that far down the list, I guess.
Cool.
But it should be at the top of the list, I think, is what I'm reading here.
I appreciate it. It gives me something to talk about in this segment.
More interesting. Yeah.
Much like redundant printings, Timeless Witness. Going back to Modern Horizons 2, we know how much you all love Eternal Witness, so what if we made another functional reprint of it for 1 more mana that also had Eternalize?
Sweet.
Yeah, no, Timeless Witness, I'm just describing the card before I read it to you, so that's weird. Timeless Witness is 2 green creature human shaman. When Timeless Witness enters the battlefield, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. It also has Eternalize, which is pay 5 green, exile this card from your graveyard, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 4/4 black zombie human shaman with no mana cost. Eternalize only as a sorcery. Timeless Witness is a 2/1.
Yeah, more than 1 Eternal Witness in the deck seems really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you might not actually use the Eternalize. I think it's 7 mana to Eternalize it, right?
Yeah,
but you
I
probably don't have to. Yeah, it's just
in this deck,
right? Exactly. In Karador, you Kara don't that it has Eternalize, and it's just like that redundancy having another copy of because I'd pay 4 mana for Eternal Witness. I mean, obviously 3 mana is better, but.
Yeah, I mean, especially if it means that you can cut maybe like a regrowth for another body in a Creatures Matter deck. That would make sense in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You weren't running regrowth, but if you were, that would make sense to cut it.
And now you wouldn't have to.
Yeah, exactly.
See?
It's all coming together.
Probably take out one of the 18 removal spells.
Why? Why were there so many removal
Pure
spells?
control. I don't know.
Moving along, more fun creatures for your creature deck. Sidisi, Undead Vizier, 3 black for a legendary creature, Zombie Naga, with Death Touch and Exploit. When this creature enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice a creature. When Sidisi, Undead Vizier exploits a creature, you may search your library for a card and put it into your hand and shuffle. It's a 4/6.
Yeah.
So kind of another tutor effect in the same way that Shamafanen.
Right.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
It's like a flavorful way to tutor cards, but also I got to shout out our friend Bobby in our play group because he included this in his zombie deck that he recently built, and just the fact that he would place a DC and then you can exploit it.
It can exploit itself.
Yeah, it can exploit itself. Yeah. And then that way you don't necessarily need to kill another creature on the board if you don't want to.
Right. You can do it without another creature on the board.
Exactly. Yeah.
It gets to the graveyard where you want it anyway.
Yeah. And it would make sense in this deck, much like it made sense in his deck, because his deck was all about playing zombies from the graveyard.
Nice.
I think it was a Jason Giralf deck.
Oh, yeah.
Which is the one that lets you to reanimate. In this case, you're just recasting it and tutoring again. So maybe if you're trying to keep it from being like too high power level, you don't include this one, just because more tutors, more consistency. But it's a fun one. I like it. And it's a Naga. You don't see a lot of those.
Yeah.
And it's a zombie Naga.
Not searchable by unmarked grave.
No, I know.
Just kidding.
I've got something out for that card, man. But what is searchable with unmarked grave, and actually you perfectly set up a combo with that, because this is not a legendary creature. Wouldn't be a recommendation section without a white creature. So we're going to go Glory, which is 3 white for a creature incarnation with flying. It has pay 2 and a white, choose a color. Creatures you control gain protection from the chosen color until end of turn. Activate only if Glory is in your graveyard.
Ooh, nice.
It's a 3/3.
Nice. Yeah, that's part of that cycle with all the creatures that want to be in your graveyard, right?
It's an old one. Yeah, a really old one. But I figure if you were running any kind of like protection spells, that's just another way to have that effect on a body. And protection, that also is if you have wide enough board.
Exactly.
Just get through all the blockers.
That's what I was thinking. It's not really an attack deck, but that's a way for you to get that extra protection to get in and kill somebody's planeswalker or the player themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. And then if you die to that, you can just sing glory, glory, glory. What a heavenly way to die. That's like a popular song.
Yeah, I mean, you could.
Yeah, okay. I was hoping you would sing along, but whatever.
I was just enjoying the show.
All right, Chris, what's the next segment?
I got some suggestions for you. So we're going Gruul, and we want to talk about mostly creatures that go in this deck. Oh, wow, they're all creatures, actually.
I see what we did there.
Did my homework.
Oh, gosh.
So, the thing about Ruric Thar is your opponents are taking 6 damage quite a bit. Mm-hmm. What if you had a card... Oh, and I actually do want to preface, I only picked suggested cards after Ruric Thar was printed. They're mostly like newer cards.
Oh, cool.
So that, with Double Masters and the reintroduction, if you will, of these commanders, I wanted to pick some newer cards that maybe people haven't played in their Ruric Thar deck in the past. So first one I got here for those opponents who are taking 6 damage every time they cast a non-creature is Dragonborn Champion. 2, a red and a green for a creature dragon warrior with trample. Whenever a source you control deals 5 or more damage to a player, draw a card. It's a 5/3. The only downside to this is your opponents are probably pretty close to dead and you're going to stop drawing cards eventually.
Yeah, but unless you're artificially pumping their life totals, you give them the life gain,
right.
The Witch's Clinic, and then you just keep the draw engine alive.
They're still taking 5 or more damage.
At that point, they're just end it, please.
Yeah, it's pretty parasitic play, isn't it? Right, just living off of your opponent's
Well, you don't need to make it sound weird.
Yeah, it's that's what I'm here for, man.
Thanks, dude.
I'm here to make it weird. All right.
Oh, I'm sad.
Let's head on over to Amonkhet and visit our Vizier of the Menagerie. For 3 and a green for a creature Naga Cleric.
This is getting weird, dude.
You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may cast creature spells from the top of your library. You may spend mana as though it were any mana of any type to cast creature spells with 3/4.
Really cool.
Yeah, perfect fixing. You had a couple of other top deck cards in here, so I thought this one kind of fit with that theme. And
it gets you the creatures and not just lands.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yep. So you can have one of each out and just storm off. Is this now a Gruul Storm?
Gruul Storm.
Gruul Creature Storm.
Gruul Stompy Storm.
So yeah, Naga too. That was not intentional.
And we both did creature only suggestions.
Oh snap! See?
Yeah, this is weird. At a certain point, people are going to call us out for pre-scripting this.
Yeah, but we didn't because you just got to believe me.
I was where's he going with this?
I wouldn't lie about anything like that.
No.
All right, let's check out Modern Horizons 2.
Oh, okay, wait a second.
Goblin, a Narcomancer, a red and a green for a creature Goblin Shaman. Each spell you cast that's red or green casts 1 less to cast. So just a ramp spell. Ruric Thar 6 mana. Now he's 5. Mm-hmm. Every other creature in the deck is 1 less to cast. Just a ramp spell. I just wanted to call this out because this card got a lot of hype, and I honestly haven't seen it that much. But in any Gruul deck, this is like the Electromancer.
Yeah.
Right, for Gruul.
Yeah, and it's 1 generic less to
one
cast?
Generic less.
Okay,
exactly.
Gotcha. That's really cool.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just thought that this was like a good ramp spell. It's on a creature. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I like about these type of ramp spells is that they're cumulative, right? Like you can put mana dorks in, and mana dorks are awesome.
Yeah.
But they only tap for 1 mana a turn. This could potentially net you 2 or 3 or
more
mana.
It's 2 mana off of Ruric Thar when you cast him.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah. Oh, actually, it's red or green, so it only.
Okay.
There are cards that are like that reduce by 1 and then the other, but it's only the 1 reduction.
What I was saying before you interrupted if I had 2 of those creatures, then it would be no.
Oh yeah, you just got to clone it. That's easy.
Yeah, no, I would rather clone the giant worm. That means the game never ends.
Elder Scale. No. All right, I got another ramp card for you. Goreclaw, Terror of Kal Sisma. 3 and a green for a legendary creature bear. Creature spells you cast with 4 power or greater cost 2 less to cast. And whenever Goreclaw attacks, each creature you control with 4 power or greater gets +1/+1 and gains trample until the end of turn. It's a 4/3. That was really the idea, was to get Ruric Thar through, because that's the one of the keywords that he doesn't have.
Yeah, is trample.
Yeah.
And that's, this was actually, I'm glad you mentioned that card, because that was like one of the last cuts that I made from the list.
Yeah.
Just when I had like decided that I wasn't necessarily planning on you winning with Ruric Thar just swinging.
Sure.
I was like, I'll cut the trample. But it's so valuable. Like anything that just gives anything trample is good.
Yeah, trample's great.
And turns out a lot of creatures in a Gruul Stomp deck are going to be more than 4 power.
Exactly. Cool. Yeah, I think that... Oh, and he does it to himself too, right?
Oh.
Each creature you control with 4 power, he has 4 power. So, yeah, pretty cool. 5/4 when he's attacking. Ruric Thar is really hard to deal with once it's on the battlefield, and so I think most opponents, particularly the blue players, are going to want to try to counter Ruric Thar. Like that's the best way to deal with him. And so we're going to stop that right in its tracks with Prowling Serpopard.
One more time.
Prowling Serpopard. 1 a green and a green for a creature cat snake. This spell can't be countered. Creature spells you control can't be countered. It's a 4/3.
Oh my gosh. Okay, cool. So it's like the Destiny Spinner, but just for creatures instead of green creatures.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Destiny Spinner is really, really good. It does enchantments too, right?
Oh, true.
But yeah, I figured that Prowling, it's also got 4 power, so it also triggers Spellclaw.
Okay, I see. And there's a method to your suggestions.
No, I just noticed that actually.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm not going to take credit for that. It wasn't quite that well planned, but it's also really cool art. It's literally a cat snake.
Okay, well now I'm gonna go look it up. No, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna put it up here. Or you're gonna put it up here.
I'll do that. Yeah, you can watch. You can look at it after.
Cool. I'll enjoy watching.
All right. All right. Well, those are the suggestions. Hopefully there are a couple of takeaways there that we could add or swap, or maybe.
I just have one question before the next segment.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, for that cat snake, you said?
Yeah, cat snake.
Can it jump higher than a Regal Caracal?
Oh, you know what? I don't know if it can jump, but it can definitely like slither up the tree.
Okay, all right. Well, now I'm uncomfortable again. So,
and you got to see the art.
No, I don't want to. Not anymore.
Okay. Oh my! Well, the games were wicked fun this time. Powerful games this go around.
Yeah, I would hope that commanders chosen from like highly priced premium like reprint set would be high octane, especially if they were considering the draft format or the limited environment in any way when they were building this. But I just put in my show notes. Gruul is so fun.
It's so fun. But, Gruul doing Gruul things. This is the Gruulest of the Gruul commanders, in my opinion.
You think so? Because I was going to ask you, this isn't the first Gruul deck that I built for the show.
Right.
How did it compare in power to Minsk and Boo?
Oh, good call. That's like the Gruul school new commander. Minsk and Boo is a really incredible, really fun deck. I mean, it's a different strategy.
That's what I enjoyed. They're very powerful, but different.
Yeah. I think the main the reason that I say it's the Gruul is because you only want to be casting creature spells and Gruul Stompy. That's really what does it for me. It's not that you can't cast creature spells. Is this that you have to be clever when you do.
Domni Raid would be proud.
Yeah,
I probably butchered the pronunciation, but you understand.
Yeah. Domri.
Okay.
Domri.
Cool.
We go way back. Only non-creatures though, right? Only. Oh no, wait. There is.
Nikia of the Old Way is a Gruul one that.
That's right.
And actually that I had kind of considered that they were like brother and sister is what it feels like, because both are like very clearly focused on creature builds. One just doesn't allow you to cast them at all. One does, but penalizes you heavily for it. Yeah. And I really liked that you had options in that, because it became a very different play experience, I think, between the two of those.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Because I've played Nikia as well in your cube.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's true. And you really don't want to put non-creature spells in that deck because you just can't play them.
Yeah, no. Yeah. It becomes harder to justify even if you're sequencing, which I still felt like it was important. But I like watching you play it. You didn't seem to have a problem. I think there was only like, how many times did you ping yourself?
I think twice, maybe the whole time.
But you had lifelink.
But I had, exactly. I was able, so that strategy worked out really well. And I might not have played those cards, or might not have played them when I did if I didn't have that lifelink ability. But it was definitely worth sinking 2 mana into Witches, or I guess 3 mana if you're tapping Witches Clinic.
Sure.
Just to it's kind of like a tax on yourself, but it allows you to play the Fire Emancipation and whatever spells were gonna like win you the game, right?
Which didn't show up during the game, sadly.
No.
But the threat of it was ever there.
Yep, I remember it was on the top of my deck because I was able. One of the cards I was able to look at the top card of my deck, but it ended that turn when J Clay lab manned.
Oh, yeah.
That was pretty cool.
I've always wondered that, like, opening hand, like when we first play these games against each other, like what are you deciding to bottom? Like I'm imagining the one that blows up all the lands would be one that you would bottom deck, but
like which cards don't I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I always prioritize. I think I prioritize card advantage.
Sure.
And ramp. Maybe removal, but it depends. Like if am I bottoming cards that I don't necessarily want to play? I don't think so. I try to take a look at the curve, like how many of these cards can I play with the lands that are in my hand, or how likely is it that I could play these cards?
Sure. It didn't seem like you had a problem ramping at all.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
With
the creatures.
Yeah,
the extra lands.
Yeah.
How many what was the most lands that you paid per turn?
Well, I had burgeoning that
that's what
burgeoning.
it was.
Yeah, and I had like 5 lands by like turn 2 or 3, and then I like ran out of lands.
Well,
but
wasn't like a turn 3 Ruric Thar?
Yeah, it was.
That's the dream.
Yeah,
like the earlier you get that commander out, the better.
It is.
I feel like.
Yep. That damage is additive for sure.
Yeah, exponential at a certain point.
It is.
No.
So Taylor, what did you think about playing cards from the graveyard? That's not something you always do, playing creatures from the graveyard.
It isn't. But I will say that I was primed based off of some other decks that we've played, because one of the things that I tutored for was Sir Conrad.
Oh, perfect.
And just I'm so glad you included him here, because there's so many things that are leaving your graveyard, entering your graveyard. Like I had joked about wishing you had Phyresis in there because that would have made the game a lot quicker. But no, it was really cool. It was really strong, and I think I'm glad that we do this exercise, because I don't think personally as a player I would have like been intrigued to build Karador, even though he has the cost reducer, right, of potentially only being a 3 mana commander to cost. 8 mana value, especially in Commander in 2022. Yeah. Like that's a lot. Like there's a risk, especially if you don't keep like the perfect land hand to start, that like you might not even get to cast your Commander at that point. Obviously you want to build your deck to, minimize that if all possible, but all that to say, I think the way that you built it and how effective it was, especially with how easy, one of the 23 ways to get creatures into the yard to reduce the cost of casting Karador, it's something that I would now feel confident having played. Like, I would want to build that deck in person.
Yeah, I'd never built a Karador deck, but it's weird. Like you said with the Ruric Thar, it kind of built itself. It was how do I mill myself? What cares about cards hitting the graveyard or leaving the graveyard? Conrad's the perfect example of that. And I guess this is a pretty fragile commander with the amount of graveyard hate there is these days.
That was actually one of my main questions for you for this part. Like, how does this deck, I guess, play against or anticipate graveyard hate?
Yeah, I think it definitely slows down the game plan. Like that's like the main.
Rest in peace, hoses this.
Exactly. Yeah, because you can't. Not only can you not cast your commander, even if you could cast your commander, you wouldn't have anything in your graveyard to cast. So it really graveyard hate is definitely going to do a lot. So I guess you have to, it is a green deck, so you are able to ramp. So maybe, having more bigger creatures in the deck would be a way to go to, because there was Elish Norn, there was Ashen Rider, there were a couple of those like big drop spells, right?
Yeah.
Which, you cast those spells and, you're in a pretty good position. You're in a commanding position, probably anyway. So being able to ramp into those spells is good, but I think that it is very, Karador is very reliant on the graveyard.
But
overall.
I think part of that is actually just keeping that into consideration when you're building the deck is part of what made it so fun, because instead of having to be like, okay, I need my Beast Within, I need all my removal, even though you did end up including 18 removal cards. I'm not sure how many of those were actually instants and sorceries, but
maybe half and half, I think.
Being able to find gems like Cathar Commander, Caustic Caterpillar, Reclamation Sage, Druid of Purification's a new one that just got printed. All of those, I think make it more resilient than it might seem. Sure, if they're in the graveyard, they're gone. But like if you are able to play a high enough density of those, they're always going to make an impact when they enter the board.
And I think that's why removal is so important. Interaction in general, right? Sure. Because if your opponent does play that Rest in Peace, well, now you have your Cathar Commando to take care of it, right? At instant speed.
So as much as we could talk about our gameplay experience for the rest of time, which is why we've dedicated ourselves to 200 episodes of the show at least.
We're up to 200 now. I love it.
Yeah. Oh no, I think that's what.
Was that it?
Yeah.
Perfect.
No, it was definitely 100. Yeah, scope creep.
Yeah, 200 decks though.
200 decks at least. Yeah. Let's talk about what the next ones will be.
Oh, super.
And I think it's fair to say that it wouldn't be Double Masters if we didn't at least do 2 episodes of Double Master spoiled commanders.
Yeah.
The set is fully spoiled at this point. And by the time you're seeing this episode, it will have been out, I think, for at least a week or 2.
Yeah.
So hopefully you're enjoying these, but Chris, what are you building for me next week, buddy?
All right. Yeah. Well, I have chosen another Jeskai commander, actually. This was one that I actually played in our cube, one of our cube games there. And I'm going to just let you know that it's a Storm deck featuring Elsha of the Infinite. Legendary creature Jin Monk for 2, a blue, a red, and a white with prowess. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature gets +1/+1 until the end of turn. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may cast non-creature spells from the top of your library. If you cast a spell this way, you may cast it as though it had Flash. It's a 3/3. You know how much I like Flash. Been talking about it all episode.
Yeah, absolutely. But like, as fun as a Storm deck would be, this is really just going to be Monk Tribal, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Jin Tribal.
Jin. Is it a Jin Monk?
Jin Monk.
Okay, Jin Monk Tribal.
There was one of those in Strixhaven.
Yeah.
See?
Rasad was a monk, too.
Oh, see? We got 3.
Yeah, easy.
Yep.
And that's all of them.
It's building itself. All creatures in a prowess deck, but... That's fine.
Please don't leave. We know what we're talking about sometimes.
Well, I wanted to feature a relatively new card that I've been having a lot of fun with out of Streets of New Capenna that I think will be a banger in this deck. It's Arcane Bombardment. Ooh. Arcane Bombardment for 4 red and a red for an enchantment. Whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery spell each turn, exile an instant or sorcery card at random from your graveyard. Then copy each card exiled with Arcane Bombardment. You may cast any number of the copies without paying their mana costs. It's a big drop. It's a 6-drop, but man, once that thing gets going...
It's a literal bomb.
It's literally. Boom. Boom. Yeah, it's... especially on each turn. I've never seen this in Commander, this card. Only on 1v1. So
because most of the time it would be something like it. You can only get that effect on your turn.
Right.
Flavorful when you have a flash deck.
See?
Okay.
It's all coming together.
I guess you know what you're talking about.
All right. We'll give it a try.
All right. And what I'm going to give a try is a Simic deck because I'm making it a mission to draw more cards with this deck than you did with Runic Armasaur in the Gruul deck.
Is Runic Armasaur in that deck?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Oh, in this deck.
Oh, I mean, he should be. Gosh, I should put him in there.
Yeah.
Azuri Claw of Progress, which is 2 green and a blue for a legendary creature, Phyrexian Elf Warrior. All hail Phyrexia. Whenever a creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you get an experience counter. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put X +1/+1 counters on another target creature you control, where X is the number of experience counters you have. Azuri is a 3/3.
Nice.
It's always counters with me, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I hate counter spells.
Counters, not counter spells. The Armasaur has 2 power.
Yeah, it does. Oh my god, now I need to... All right, forget whatever my showcase card was gonna be. I'm putting in that Scaly Boy. No, but in all seriousness, I was like, how can I get as many... The reason I wanted to build that commander deck for you is because I was like, how can I get as many experience counters in one turn as possible?
All right, that's one of the stats we'll track.
So the easy answer would be Scoot Swarm. So we're not going to do that.
Sweet. Oh my gosh, does it count tokens?
Yes, it does.
Oh my gosh. bananas.
We're not going to do Scoot Swarm. Instead, we're going to do Avenger of Zendikar, which is 5 green creature elemental. When Avenger of Zendikar enters the battlefield, create a 0/1 green plant creature token for each land you control.
Nice.
Landfall, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a +1/+1 counter on each plant you control. Avenger of Zendikar is a 5/5. Pretty much printed in every green commander precon these days, so you probably know him well, but I just care about how many 0/1 green plants are going to enter the battlefield while a series in play.
Oh, that's so cool. Stack those experience counters. I love that mechanic. Experience is really, really cool.
Yeah. It's, I guess we'll know when I experience it.